I guess we have to cover the Biden farewell speech. How could we not? It was meh, lol. What else could it be? Hello, Biden. Remember when you and the entire party tried to make you the president for 4 more years?
American and Israeli hostages in exchange
Shut
for the release
up,
of hundreds
man.
of Palestinian facilities. In what will be his final address to the nation, live on C-SPAN.
I think it's extremely funny that C-SPAN's cut of his farewell address included at the beginning 10 seconds of remaining audio talking about the situation in Israel.
My fellow Americans, I'm speaking to you tonight from the Oval Office. Before I begin, let me speak to important news from earlier today. After 8 months of nonstop negotiation, by my administration, a ceasefire and a hostage deal has been reached by Israel and Hamas.
That's great, man. We believe that you did it. Thank you for all the pressure you put on Israel.
The elements of which I laid out in great detail in May of this year. This plan was developed and negotiated by my team and will be largely implemented by the incoming administration. That's why I told my team to keep the incoming administration fully informed, because that's how it should be, working together as Americans. This will be my final address to you from the American people from the Oval Office, from this desk as president. And I've been thinking a lot about who we are, and maybe more importantly, who we should be. Long ago in New York Harbor, an iron worker installed beam after beam, day after day. He was joined by steelworkers, stonemasons, engineers. They built not just a single structure, but a beacon of freedom. The very idea of America was so big, we felt the entire world needed to see. The Statue of Liberty, a gift from France after our Civil War. Like the very idea of America, it was built not by one person, but by many people, from every background and from around the world.
It's the perfect start to something like this from the Democrats, you know, misty-eyed recollection of the past and the abstract ideals of the United States, as if anyone gives a basically. It's perfect. It's in the darkest, it's easiest to see the stars in the night sky.
Like America, the Statue of Liberty is not standing still. Her foot literally steps forward atop a broken chain of human bondage. She's on the march, and she literally moves. She was built to sway back and forth to withstand the fury of stormy weather, to stand the test of time because storms are always coming. She sways a few inches, but she never falls into the current below. An engineering marvel. The Statue of Liberty is also an enduring symbol of the soul of our nation. A soul shaped by forces that bring us together and by forces that pull us apart. And yet through good times and tough times, we've withstood it all. A nation of pioneers and explorers, of dreamers and doers, of ancestors native to this land, of ancestors who came by force, a nation of immigrants who came to build a better life, a nation holding the torch of the most powerful idea ever in the history of the world, that all of us are created equal, that all of us deserve to be treated with dignity, justice, and fairness, that democracy must defend.
It really is a reminder, and I feel like this is, people have been bringing this up for literally like centuries, but how much the mythology of America is used to paint over the reality of America. We live in like a record time of equality, you know, like a monumentally unequal time. And it's so easy, or the Democrats are so intent on trying to distract you from where we are with this, rather than talking about, like, this is why Trump won. Trump doesn't talk about these, like, you know, the abstract mythology of the United States at all. He basically just talks about like current issues, what he's going to do, what he thinks about the way the world is. But he doesn't go on these long diatribes and platitudes about, like, you know, the soul of the heart of the, you know, the ink of the pen of the founding fathers inscribed the dream of the legacy of the soul of the, it's just, no one gives a man.
And be defined and be imposed, moved in every way possible. Our rights, our freedoms, our dreams. But we know the idea of America, our institution, our people, our values that uphold it are constantly being tested. Ongoing debates about power and the exercise of power, but whether we lead by the example of our power or the power of our example, whether we show the courage to stand up to the abuse of power or we yield to it. After 50 years at the center of all of this, I know that believing in the idea of America means respecting the institutions that govern a free society, the presidency, the Congress, the courts.
Is this fast forwarded? Yeah.
Free and independent.
We're 4 minutes in, by the way, before we mention anything real.
Press. Institutions that are rooted, they just might not reflect the timeless words, but they echo the words of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Rooted in the timeless words of the Constitution, we the people. Our system of separation of powers, checks and balances, it may not be perfect, but it's maintained our democracy for nearly 250 years, longer than any other nation in history that's ever tried such a bold experiment. In the past 4 years, our democracy has held strong, and every day I've kept my commitment to be president for all Americans.
It's going great,
For one
man.
of the toughest periods in our nation's history. I've had a great partner in Vice President Kamala Harris. It's been the honor of my life to see the resilience of essential workers getting us through a once-in-a-century pandemic, the heroism of service members and first responders keeping us safe, the determination of advocates standing up for our rights and our freedoms instead of losing their jobs to an economic crisis that we inherited. Millions of Americans now have the dignity of work. Millions of entrepreneurs and companies creating new businesses and industries, hiring American workers, using American products. And together, we've launched a new era of American possibilities. One of the greatest modernizations of infrastructure in our entire...
Chad doesn't realize it, but this is a very Christian reaction to hardship. I mean, maybe. I feel like this pulls into, like, a bunch of traditional values that might not necessarily be specific to, like, I don't know, Christianity or Catholicism or whatever, but refers to, like, some broader stuff. I just think that... because it's not just him, it's all of the Democrats. So you can't say it's like, oh, it's because he's an old man or a Catholic or whatever. He didn't write the speech, for one. And for two, all Democrats talk like this, basically. This, like, yeah, broad, the empty platitudes, the broad, like, American values thing as a way of avoiding talking about the real world. You know?
History. From new roads, bridges, clean water, affordable high-speed internet for every American. We invented the semiconductor, smaller than the tip of my little finger, and now is bringing those chip factories and those jobs back to America where they belong, creating thousands of jobs. Finally, giving Medicare the power to negotiate lower prescription drug prices for millions of seniors. And finally,
which is already being challenged, by the way. Love the implementation of one of your actual policy wins being delayed until the next administration.
Something to protect our
so
children
Trump can take credit
and our
for
families by passing the most significant gun safety law in 30 years and bringing violent crime to a 50-year low, meeting our sacred obligation to over 1 million veterans so far who are exposed to toxic materials, and to their families, providing medical care and education benefits and more for their families. You know, it will take time to feel the full impact of all we've done together. But the seeds are planted.
The burn pit thing is still so crazy. Like, sometimes I forget how crazy it is that we were just like, what if we had a bunch of people in uniform stand around where they were building the petroleum bonfires? I mean, like, it wasn't like we didn't know. You know?
And they'll grow and they'll bloom for decades to come. At home, we've created nearly 17 million new jobs, more than any other single administration, a single term. More people have health care than ever before. And overseas, we've strengthened NATO. Ukraine is still free.
Yay.
And we pulled ahead of our competition with China. And so much more. I'm so proud of how much we've accomplished together for the American people. And I wish the incoming administration success, because I want America to succeed. That's why I've upheld my duty.
What bonfires? When we were, like, in Iraq and Syria and stuff, it was common practice because we didn't want to manage the logistics of, like, waste removal, that we just burned our trash in big pits. Absolutely insane thing to do, by the way. Like, I feel I'm not an expert on this. feel like they probably could have just, I don't know, put it all somewhere else, like in a landfill, but instead they were like, what if we just lit a bunch of it on fire? And a lot of it was like plastic crap, and they poisoned like 1 billion soldiers. It's insane. And buried it? Yeah, but the fire continues after you bury it. So you have the fumes pouring up through the sand, and it's just like everywhere, you know? It's so stupid. It was just so stupid. So stupid. My dad was one of the guys that would drive trucks to dump that into the bonfires. I'm sorry for your dad, man. My dad's on disability for it. It's just an insane decision to make, you know?
To ensure a peaceful and orderly transition of power. To ensure we lead by the power of our example.
Not just Iraq, they've done that for decades. Yeah, I guess I'm just mostly familiar with it in the context of like Iraq and Syria and stuff.
I have no doubt that America is in a position to continue to succeed. That's why my farewell address tonight, I want to warn the country of some things that give me great concern.
Uh-huh.
And this is a dangerous and that's a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a very few ultra-wealthy people. And the dangerous consequences if their abuse of power is left unchecked. Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America.
If only you were the
extreme
president,
wealth,
you
power,
might have
and
been able to do
influence
something
that
about it.
literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead. We see the consequences all across America, and we've seen it before. More than a century ago, but the American people stood up to the robber barons back then and busted the trusts. They didn't punish the wealthy. This made the wealthy play by the rules everybody else had to.
This is why this shit will never work, man. You toothlessly adopt the aesthetic of class warfare, but then at the end you're like, oh no, we don't want to like do anything to the wealthy. Oh yeah, we think that the wealthy and the concentration of power with the wealthy represent like a danger to democracy and a threat to society, but like we don't want to like do anything about it. We just want them to pay their fair share. It would be like people looking to reform the monarchy by saying like, oh no, we just want the king to give the fiefdoms fair warning before increasing the grain tax or whatever the you know. But you're adopting like the revolutionary language. Oh, trust busting. Dude, trust busting when done properly up wealthy people, okay? And this isn't just a matter of them paying their fair share. The wealthy people are breaking laws day in and day out, okay? Like equal application of the law would hurt them.
Workers want rights to earn their fair share. You know, they were dealt into the deal, and it helped put us on a path to building the largest middle class, the most prosperous century any nation in the world has ever seen. And we've got to do that again. In the last 4 years, that is exactly what we've done. People should be able to make as much as they can, but play by the same rules. Pay their fair share of taxes. So much is at stake. Right now,
the fair share bullshit, I've always also like hated this rhetoric because it's an easy and cheap way out of making a real argument against inequality. What is a fair share? Do you think that a lower middle class family of 4 should pay $10,000 a year, therefore a wealthy person should also pay $10,000 a year? They're paying the same amount. What's a fair share? What does that mean? You can't answer that question without getting at some underlying questions about how much wealth a person should really be able to have. But Democrats don't want to have that question, so they just defer to the abstract notion of fairness as a representation of the, like, I don't know, collectively agreed upon normal. Well, you know what? The normal tax rate is too low. They keep cutting taxes for the wealthy. I don't want it to be normal. I want it to be higher. I don't want wealthy people to pay their fair share. I want them to pay a lot. They profit the most from this country. They've extracted trillions as a class in wealth, and I want it back. Me personally, not you. I want it.
The threat of climate change has never been clearer. Just look across the country, from California to North Carolina. That's why I signed the most significant climate and clean energy law ever in the history of the world, and the rest of the world is trying to model it now. It's working, creating jobs and industries of the future. Now, we've proven we don't have to choose between protecting the environment and growing the economy. We're doing both. But powerful forces want to wield their unchecked influence to eliminate the steps we've taken to tackle the climate crisis. to serve
What powerful forces, out of curiosity? I know you can't say the bourgeoisie, but like...
their own interest for power and profit. We must not be bullied into sacrificing the future of our children and our grandchildren. We must keep pushing forward and push faster. There's no time to waste.
And it's more midwit corporatism bullshit, where the problem isn't the underlying, like, economic mode, but rather some people are being greedy and taking advantage of it. Brother, capitalism set the incentives. Tell me the incentives, I'll show you the outcome, okay?
It's also clear that American leadership in technology is an unparalleled source of innovation that can transform lives. We see the same dangers of the concentration of technology, power, and wealth. You know, his farewell address, President Eisenhower spoke of the dangers of the military-industrial complex.
Don't talk to me. Don't cheapen these words by cynically invoking them at the end of a presidency in which you did nothing to advance these concerns. Don't you
He warned us then about, and I quote, the potential...
You literally sacrificed the credibility of American journalism to whatever extent it existed, which isn't much, on an altar to protect Israel. You did everything you did with Israel. That's the MIC. All of it. You did all of this.
For the disastrous rise of misplaced power, end of quote. 6 decades later, I'm equally concerned about the potential rise of a tech-industrial complex that could pose real dangers for our country as well.
You did this, man. You were party to all of it. The entire underlying process, the backroom deals, the State Department lies, the coordination of media and government to create like a misinformation crisis, where you were feeling like a fucking revolutionary just hearing regular, ordinary reports out of Gaza. Literally, like, you had to go to independent media or foreign media to even hear about some of the most basic evil shit Israel was doing. And you facilitated all of this. You defended them. You endorsed the insults, the condemnations of the student protesters. You did all of it.
Americans are being buried under an avalanche of misinformation and disinformation.
Ooh.
Enabling the abuse of power. The free press is crumbling. Editors are disappearing. Social media is giving up on fact-checking. The truth is smothered by lies told for power and for profit. We must hold the social platforms accountable to protect our children, our families.
Just unimaginably infuriating. Just absolutely cynical and revolting on every level. And it's difficult to even know to what extent he's even aware of what he's done, with how mentally gone he is, with how much his handlers have hid him from the public. Like, who even knows? I don't even know.
And our very democracy from the abuse of power. Meanwhile, artificial intelligence is the most consequential technology of our time, perhaps of all time. Nothing offers more profound possibilities and risks for our economy and our security, our society, for humanity. Artificial intelligence even has the potential to help us answer my call to end cancer as we know it. But unless safeguards are in place to help us answer my call to end cancer as we know it. But unless safeguards are in place, AI could spawn new threats to our rights, our way of life, to our privacy, how we work, and how we protect our nation. We must make sure AI is safe and trustworthy and good for all humankind. In the age of AI, it's more important than ever that the people must govern. And as a land of liberty, America, not China, must lead the world in the development of AI. You know, in the years ahead, it's going to be up to the president, the presidency, the Congress, the courts, the free press, and the American people to confront these powerful forces. We must reform the tax code, not by giving the biggest tax cuts to billionaires, but by making them begin to pay their fair share. We need to get dark money. That's that hidden funding behind too many campaign contributions. We need to get it out of our politics. We need to enact an 18.
What's that one tweet? Why does Joe Biden always talk like someone else is president? Whenever he tweets, he's like, someone should really do something about this. It sure, I mean, hey, if you believed in this stuff, it would have been cool for you to talk about it. You know how when Donald Trump has a thing that he believes, he mentions it like 6 times a day, talks to a ton of people in both legacy and independent media, has 16 rallies that month where he brings it up every time and does like jokes about it and stuff, and everyone always knows what he believes? How much did you talk about the military-industrial complex during your presidency? Man, it sure would be cool if the head of state, whose job it is to be the head of state, used his power as the head of state to convince people in the country and without of the positions he holds, like Donald Trump has successfully done. Could have mentioned this, could have brought it up.
18-year time limit, term limit, time and term for the strongest ethics reform and the strongest ethics reforms for our Supreme Court. We need to ban members of Congress from trading stock while they're in the Congress. We need to amend the Constitution to make clear that no president is immune from crimes that he or she commits while in office. The president's power is not limited. It's not absolute, and it shouldn't be. And in a democracy, there's another danger to the concentration of power and wealth. It erodes a sense of unity and common purpose. It causes distrust and division. Participating in our democracy becomes exhausting and even disillusioning. And people don't feel like they have a fair shot.
He's talking directly to all of the pro-Palestinian protesters on college campuses who are peacefully demonstrating against a genocide only to be reviled by the public, lied about by the media, and condemned by the president. Don't worry, guys. Don't get disillusioned.
We have to stay engaged in the process.
Yeah.
I know it's frustrating. A fair shot is what makes America America. Everyone's entitled to a fair shot. Not a guarantee, but just a fair shot. An even playing field. Going as far as your hard work and talent can take you.
This is more mythologizing bullshit.
We never lose that essential truth. Remain who we are. I've always believed, and I've told other world leaders, America can be defined by one word: possibilities. Only in America do we believe anything is possible. Like a kid with a stutter from modest beginnings in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Claremont, Delaware, sitting behind this desk.
We need to drop this insane obsession with like possibility or choice as the American virtue when our government and corporations are run by like 10 people and all of them are friends with each other and they all go to the same dinners. And like everyone in power has connections to everyone else in power. Like it's such bullshit, man. The lines are drawn so much more distinctly than they were before. You just don't, it doesn't mean anything. It's total bullshit.
Oval Office as President of the United States. That's the magic of America. It's all around us. Upstairs in the residence of the White House, I've walked by a painting of the Statue of Liberty I don't know how many times. In the painting, there's several workers climbing on the outstretched arm of the statue that holds the torch. It reminds me every day I pass it of the story and soul of our nation and the power of the American people. There's a story of a veteran. This is a veteran, a son of an immigrant, whose job was to climb that torch and polish the amber panes so rays of light could reach out as far as possible. He was known as the keeper of the flame. He once said of the Statue of Liberty,
I don't blame young, disillusioned men for falling into Trump's orbit when this is what they're getting from the other side. Don't get me wrong, they're wrong, and a lot of them are bad people, but when you have two sides of the aisle and one of them engages in bullshit like this, and the other one is talking about I shouldn't say real problems, because Republicans make up problems all the time. I should say things that seem to be real problems, real experiences, what's happening now, what can be done, what do we want, what are we going to do, This is not a moral defense of those positions. I'm only saying it's a hell of a lot more compelling than this. This works exclusively. This works with people whose favorite show is The West Wing and people who attend their consultant brunches. before tanking Kamala Harris's campaign post-DNC. That's who this lands with. This lands with the speechwriter.
Speaks a silent universal language, one of hope, that anyone who seeks and speaks freedom can understand. Yes, we sway back and forth to withstand the fury of the storm, to stand the test of time. A constant struggle, a short distance between peril and possibility. But what I believe is the America of our dreams is always closer than we think. And it's up to us to make our dreams come true. Let me close by stating my gratitude.
Sorry, just idly scrolling Twitter because this guy's going to make me crash out and I see this. Remember, we could have had him. If the DNC didn't shoot him down, if their donors didn't shoot him down, we could have had him. Highest approval rating in the Senate, Bernie Sanders. And it's not just a product of ignorance. Everyone knows who Bernie Sanders is. And despite approval for Donald Trump creeping now towards 50%, only 27% disapproval of him. Everyone likes Bernie Sanders because he actually believes in something. That's it. He actually believes in something, and his message reaches essentially all Americans. And for that, he has been rewarded with an enormous plus 42 approval, which is like the dream. Like it's like unimaginably good. For a senator? In a broad poll?
To so many people, to the members of my administration, as well as public service and first responders across the country and around the world, thank you for stepping up to serve. To our service members and your families, it's been the highest honor of my life to lead you as Commander-in-Chief. And of course to Kamala and her incredible partner, historic Vice President. She and Doug have become like family, and to me, family's everything. My deepest appreciation to our amazing First Lady who's with me in the Oval today. For our entire family. You're the love of my life and the lives of my love. My eternal thanks to you, the American people. After 50 years of public service, I give you my word. I still believe in the idea for which this nation stands. A nation where the strength of our institutions and the character of our people matter and must endure. Now it's your turn to stand guard. May you all be the keeper of the flame. May you keep the faith. I love America.
Keep the faith, brother.
You love it too. God bless you all. And may God protect our troops. Thank you for this great honor.
Eat shit, Genocide Joe. Yeah, this guy. All right. Well, glad that he could, gift us a little bit of moral unambiguity by, giving himself a clear record, right? I mean, for a while, it was just like pretty decent social democrat labor reform, but now it's just the genocide bit, and now we have like an easy tell. Remember just 2 years ago when we thought Biden was one of the best presidents in a long time? Low bar, but yeah. Because at that point, all he'd really done was either the status quo or improve things on the labor front. But, time moved forward. Time moved forward. Yeah, now he's out here saying he hates the MIC while donating tens of billions to Israel. Whatever, man.